from Mississippi, little place called Delo, Mississippi. And the biggest town, the largest town, was Jackson, Mississippi, which was 18 miles from where we lived. And that's where I was actually born. And the experience that I had down there, coming up as a child, we started out, that I remember, living with my grandmother. And then we finally got our own place, and we had no running water and no electric lights. We had to use oil lamps, and we used old pot-belly stove to heat the house with. We worked the farm, the white man's farm, and we got 40%, 60%, and he got 40% of what we made, and that's how we lived. During the winter month, my dad would contract with people who had logs and another wood called puckwood or paper wood, and he would contract with them by the board feet and cut it and take it to the mill, and they got a portion of it and he got a portion of it. So it was a long, tedious life. Then we finally got enough money saved up, we went out to a place called Rosehill, and there was a white man there. He had land, 40 acres of land, and what we would do, we would live on his land. He lived across the street, across the road, and we farmed his land and gave him 40% of what we raised, as far as cotton, corn, peanuts, etc. Once we sold the product and got the money, we did that for about 5 or 6 years, and then finally we got our own place. Then we couldn't plant any more than 5 acres of cotton, 5 acres of corn, and I think it was 1 acre of watermelons, and we could plant soybeans and produce like that. But we plant cotton. I remember one year the federal government came out, and you could only plant 5 acres, and he stepped it off and made my dad turn over 2 rows of cotton. He stood there and watched him while they turned it over, and that was one of the most difficult times of our life. And then I remember very well, me and my dad, when I finally reached 12 years old, me and my dad, my brother, we saw some logs for the railroad, and it taken me all day to make 1 railroad tie, and he made 3, and I think my brother made 2. And we finally went to the railroad depot, and they were buying them there. And this old guy who was a purchaser of the tires said, how much you want for them? And my dad said to him, $2 a tire. And the man said, well, I don't have to buy them. And Dad said, well, I don't have to sell them either. He told my dad, if I had my gun, I would kill me an end too. And so we left. And so it was things like that that really disappointed us, and also things that we had to endure. And I remember me and my dad went to town one time, and it was dark before we got back, and my dad had a tail light out on the truck, just one tail light. And we stopped in this service station and grocery store where my dad always buy his food and stuff like that. He had a credit account, and so he went in to purchase something, and this old county sheriff came up and told him, says, "Ian, you know your tail light's out?" He said, "Yes, I know it's out." No, he said, "Yes, sir, I know it's out." And he said, "Well, I'm going to give you a citation for it." He said, "Well, don't you give a warning and give me an opportunity to fix it?" And he said, "Hell no, Ian. Get in the car. I'm going to take you to jail." And I was sitting there 12 years old, and 12 miles from home. And I had no driving license. It was dark. And this owner of the store came out and asked my dad, says, AJ, what's going on out there? He said, he's taking me to jail. And he said, he told that county sheriff, said, turn that in loose. I know him. And let him go. He said, well, would you stand for him? He said, yes, I'll stand for him. Turn him loose and let him go. And it was things like that we had to deal with. And then when we go to town, we couldn't use the white restroom. They had one white restroom. They had one around the back for the blacks. You couldn't eat in any restaurant unless there was a black restaurant. It was really bad if you didn't know your place. One of the things that we learned to deal with the prejudice and the rejection when we was down there. Then when we went back in 1977, they was just as nice as they could be and asking us, had we seen the president? You know, we were from Washington. We told them no, we didn't see no president. We lived in Washington State. When we found out that we lived in Washington State, everything kind of got cold. Like it was but to live in the South, you just had to know to say yes, so, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. You need to learn also not speak unless you're spoken to, not say anything unless you ask something. So I learned to deal with those prejudice issues down there. But it was difficult, even though we had to deal with that, and we couldn't go to school. And even if we went to school, we had to walk 5 miles to school because we had no bus. And then those white boys would be waiting on us when we got out of school, and we had to cross this bridge, and they wouldn't let us cross the bridge. So we had to go down through the wood and wade through the creek, or wade through the creek in order to get home. Or we had to get on a log and crawl across the creek on a log to keep them from interfering with us. And so that's the thing I had to deal with back in the South. Do I hate folks? No. One of the things I didn't like the way some of the folks did. There were some folks who was real nice. There were some folks who were nice. White folks were nice to my parents. They gave us credit. There was one man who had a brother that lived in Delo, Mississippi. His name was Brackenbush. He had a store, and he asked us to look up his brother. When we came out to Pasco, he lived in Richland, Washington, about 8-10 miles away, and we met his brother when we got out here in 1955. We came out in '54, and he was nice as he could be and really treated us nice. And some folks are nice, and some of them just plain mean and prejudiced. And that's kind of a little bit of my lifestyle. At the Washington State, it was nice, but the prejudice was more undercover or hidden, so you couldn't see it right away, and there was like a pretend, because you couldn't get certain jobs, and you couldn't live in certain communities because you were black, and you couldn't get promoted on the job because you were black. You had to always have a labor job, a manual labor, getting into management and getting into those type of positions. Even if you had a degree, you still had to deal with a lot of those prejudice issues. But my main issue is that buying cars. If they had a nice car and you trying to buy it, they would sell it right out from under you. And if the white man wanted it, I've experienced that several times in my shopping for automobiles. People are still prejudiced even out here. They just sneaky about it, and they do it in such a way that you have a hard time trying to sue them or trying to convince other people that they that they are discriminating against you. Some places you couldn't eat, and even places in the city of Seattle you couldn't eat, and even it was a city council who had a place, a restaurant, and you couldn't eat in that restaurant. So once things changed, they didn't hang you up by your heels or hang you up by your neck, throw you in the river and things of that nature. But there was other ways of being prejudiced that they were so sneaky about it until you knew it was going on, but you couldn't do anything about it. Well, I think black history, I think not black history, I think blacks has improved. The treatment of blacks has improved somewhat over the last 50 years. We have a long ways to go. And freedom, I think freedom will come after many of our lifetime. I've been here almost 82 years, and I haven't seen much improvement yet.